everyone! Whoever is watching our video recorded presentation, welcome to our video, where you can learn some information, trivias that you captivate in your mind in our topic. I am Relazner A. Bagunda. And I am Amira A. Bala. Our assigned topic are brief summary of the first voyage around the world by Magellan by Antonio Pigafetta and analysis of Pigafetta's chronicle.
Narinig niyo na ba yung mga yan? Oo, siguro, hindi. Nalimutan? Well, this is the right video for you to remember and know what it's all about in those two topics.
Before we proceed to our topic, let me ask you first, did you know what the name of this book is? Well, the name of this book is The First Voyage Around the World, and the author is Antonio Pigafetta.
The first topic that we have to discuss is a brief summary of the first voyage around the world by Magellan by Antonio Pigafetta. Well, we have to know first the background of the author, whose name is Antonio Pigafetta. Antonio Pigafetta was born in 1491 in the province of Piacenza in Italy. He is also known as Antonio Lombardo or Francisco Antonio Pigafetta. Antonio Pigafetta also died in Vicenza, Italy in 1534. He was a scholar and explorer from the Republic of Venice, and he was a seafarer and geographer.
The First Voyage Around the World by Magellan by Antonio Pigafetta is commonly known as Pigafetta's Travelogue of Magellan's Circumnavigation, or the First Voyage Around the World. This book was published after Pigafetta's return to Italy. The book was taken from the chronicles of contemporary voyagers and navigators of the 16th century. One of the voyagers and navigators of this book is Antonio Pigafetta, who was an Italian nobleman.
Nag-join si Pigafetta kay Ferdinand Magellan expedition to record their journey, the people they encountered, the challenges they faced, and provided detailed descriptions of the islands they visited, such as Omonhon, Zuluan, Calagan, Zamal, Marianas Islands, and many more.
Yung book na inikda ni Pigafetta, The First Voyage Around the World, is tinutukoy ng aklat na ito bilang bahagi ng interpretasyon ni na William Shakespeare, Michel de Montaigne, and Giambattista Vico sa Bagong Daigdig.
Ang travelogue ni Pigafetta ay isa sa mga pinakamahalagang primary sources. Ano nga ba ang primary sources? Ang primary sources is ito yung first-hand or original account made during the events being studied. The travelogue serves as a primary, authoritative source for those pivotal moments in the early history of European arrival here in the Philippines.
Ang travelogue of Antonio Pigafetta was about the exploration of Ferdinand Magellan, isang mahalagang dokumento na nagbibigay sa atin ng impormasyon tungkol sa Pilipinas bago pa man dumating ang mga Kastila. Ngunit, dapat din natin tandaan na inisulat ito ni Pigafetta mula sa kanyang sariling pananaw bilang isang Europeo noong panahon ng eksplorasyon. Ibig sabihin, ang kanyang mga obserbasyon ay maaaring may impluensya sa kanyang kultura o pananaw.
Habang sailing sila, they reached what he called Ladrones Island or Island of Tears. He described the island of Ladrones by saying this phrase. The phrase means that they didn't have the traditional arms like swords and guns. Instead, they improvised shows. Although they appeared impoverished at first, but they are clever and attentive in how they live. Antonio Pigafetta, referring to the people of Ladrones Island, now known as Marianas Island. The island is now located at south-southeast of Japan, west-southwest of Hawaii, north of New Guinea, and east of the Philippines. 10 days after they reach the island, but why do they call them as the Island of Thieves? Well, due to the islanders' tendency to take items from their ships. Did you know that the name Island of Thieves was given to the Mariana Island in honor of Mariana of Austria?
Pigafetta said that they already reached the Isle of Zamal, now as Samar. But nag-decided si Magellan na magpunta na lang sa uninhabitable island para sa security upang makapagpahinga sila ng mga ilang araw. On March 18, 1521, 9 men from a local island approached Magellan's ship with joy and eagerness. They welcomed Magellan and his crew with drinks, food, and gifts. This occurred after Magellan's fleet landed on the island, which they initially called Zamal, now Samar. The island where they first landed and where the 9 men approached them is specially named the Island of Homonhon. Did you know that the island of Zamal is what the first island in the Philippines archipelago sighted by Magellan on March 16, 1521?
Pigafetta detailed fascination and amazement the palm tree, which bore fruits called kotchu and wine, in both. Na tinatawag na kotcho o buko sa Filipino at ang tuba o alak na gawa sa niyog. Ang passage of Antonio Pigafetta is gina-describe na yung kotcho and elaborates on its various uses by the indigenous people they encountered here in the Philippines. Pigafetta characterized Filipino people as very friendly and familiar. The boat they are sailing went to Homono Island or Homonhon, located at Giwan, Eastern Samar, and natagpuan nila yung sinasabi ni Pigafetta as watering place of good sign. They named the island along with the nearby island, the archipelago of St. Lazarus. After that, they left.
On March 25th, they saw the two balanghay, a long boat full of people in Mazava or Mazawa, which means an island. Ang captain na tangking na ito ay si Raya Siagu ay nagbigay ng gifts to express their desire to become brothers. When the king of the Balangay offered to give Magellan a bar of gold and chest of ginger, tinanggihan ito ni Magellan. Instead, Magellan asked the king for help with supplies and saying he came as a friend. The king gave him food and gifts, and Magellan exchanged gifts with clothes, knives, and mirror. Magellan showed off his soldier's armor and weapons, which amazed the king. He also shared his maps and explained how they reached the island. After a few days, si Magellan ay i-introduce sa kapatid ng king, also a king of another island, of Zuluan and Calagan, named King Raya Calambu. Now, in the present day, they are called Butuan and Caraga in northeastern Mindanao, Philippines. Pumunta sila sa island na yon. Ang sinabi ni Pigafetta na may nakita daw siyang mines of gold. The gold was so abundant that part of the ship and the house of the second king were made of gold. Gidescribe ni Pigafetta si King Reyna Calambu as the most handsome of all men that he saw in the island. Did you know that the Raya in her view generally means friend or companion?
On March 31, 1521, Easter Sunday, Ferdinand Magellan organized a Catholic Mass on the shores of Mazawa. Then the two kings named Raja Calambo and Raja Shago sent 2 pigs, served as a goodwill, and attended the ceremony. During the Mass, both kings participated respectfully. They kissed the cross during the offertory and knelt with joined hands. Did you know that this event is significant as it marks the introduction of Christianity to the Philippines? Did you know that the Mass was officiated by Father Padre Valderrama, the Expedition Champlain?
After the Mass of Easter Sunday, March 31, 1521, Magellan had a cross brought forward. This was including a nail and a crown. He explained to the local rulers that this item represented the authority and insignia of his emperor, and that he was mandated to plant such a cross in every newly reached location. He further told them that planting the cross would benefit the local greatly. He assures that any future Spaniards who saw the cross will recognize their presence, avoid causing harm, and that any Spaniards taken, the King Raya Calambu agreed and allowed the cross to be erected.
After 7 days, si Magellan at ang makasamahan niya ito is nag-decide na maghanap na daw ng island where they could acquire more supplies and provisions. They land at the island of Bohol, Leyte, and Cebu. Ang king ng Zuluan and Calagan na si Raya Calambo ay nag-offer ng volunteered upang i-guide si Magellan papuntang Cebu, the largest and the richest of the island. By April 7, 1521, si Magellan at ang mga kasamahan niya ito is arrived at the port of Cebu in the Philippines. But upon arrival, the king of Cebu named Raja Humabon is nag-request kay Magellan to pay tribute to follow costumes for foreign visitors. But Magellan is declined. Magellan conveyed that it would be more beneficial for the Cebuanos to establish friendly relations with the Spanish crowns rather than to have adversaries. By the next day, Raja Humabon decided to pursue peaceful relations. Pero, para daw mag-form ang alliance nila is dapat they perform a blood compact. What is blood compact? Blood compact is a traditional Filipino ritual symbolizing friendship and mutual respect. In the ceremony, both King and Magellan made a small cuts on their arms, mixing their blood with wine and drinking it.
On the day following their arrival in Cebu, Ferdinand Magellan addressed the local populace speaking about peace and the Christian God. According to Antonio Pigafetta, the expedition chronicle, the people responded positively to his message. Sa pakikipag-ugnayan nito, nagtanong si Magellan tungkol sa plano ng paghalili para sa lokal na hari. Ipinaliwanag ng mga Cebuano na ang panganay na anak ng hari ay isang anak na babae na ang pangalan niya ay si Birorang Humamay. Ang itinatalagang kahalili niya, ibinahagi din nila ang isang kultura na nakasanayan kung saan bilang mga magulang na may edad na, inaasahan nilang sundin ang kanilang mga anak na umako sa mga tungkulin ng pamumuno.
On April 14, 1521, Magellan gathered the local king and the principal men of the islands, including Cebu, with the intention of fostering Christianity. He urged them to destroy their idols, instead worship the cross. The king and his people pledged to obey the captain's commands faithfully. During the ceremony, hinawakan ni Ferdinand Magellan ang kamay ng hari habang inaakay siya papuntang scaffolding. Nang mabaustimuhan ng hari, binigyan siya ng pangalang Don Carlos or Charles bilang parangal kay Emperador Charles ng Espanya at isang prinsipe naman ang binigyang pangalang Don Fernando ayon sa kapatid ng emperador. Ang hari ng Mazaba ay bininyagan na Jehan, ang Moor ay pinangalan ng Christopher at ang iba naman ay binigyan ng pangalan ayon sa nais ni Magellan. Did you know that Raja Humabon was baptized by Father Pedro Valderrama, the expedition Champlain who accompanied Magellan to the Philippines?
Who is Pedro de Valderrama? Pedro de Valderrama served as the Champlain of Ferdinand Magellan's expedition, was the only Catholic priest aboard the fleet tasked with the spiritual care of the crew and facilitating the Christian mission.
In the following 8 days, almost all inhabitants of the island were baptized, though one village was burned down for resistance. Daily Mass was held on the shore, and Magellan presented an image of Infant Jesus o Santo Niño to the Queen. After mag-convert ng mga natives into Christianity, may isang nangyaring miracle. Ano kaya yun? Sabi ni Pigafetta, may isang bininyagan na nakakapagsalita ulit. Parang himala talaga. Pero, hindi lahat ng mga natives ay gusto si Magellan.
On April 26, pumunta si Zula, isang principal man from the island of Matan or Mactan, para humingi ng tulong kay Magellan. Gusto daw ni Zula ng isang boat full of men para labanan si Lapu-Lapu na tinatawag nating Lapu-Lapu. Ayaw daw kasi ni Lapu-Lapu sumunod sa king nila at pinipigilan pa daw ni Zula na sumunod. So, ano kaya ang gagawin ni Magellan?
Nag-offer si Magellan ng 3 boats instead at sinabi niya mismo na pupunta siya sa Mactan para labanan si Lapu-Lapu. Dumating si Magellan kasama ang 49 soldiers at ang mga taga-Mactan naman ay estimated 1,500. Sobrang dami, no? Pero ano kaya ang nangyari sa labanan nila?
Sabi ni Pigafetta, when we reached the land, we found the islanders 1,500 in number, drew up in 3 squadrons. They came down upon us with terrible shouts, 2 squadrons attacking us on the flanks, and the 3rd in front. Sobrang dami daw ng mga taga-Mactan. Sinalakay daw sila agad, sumisigaw at nagwawala. Nagpapaputok daw ang mga musketeers at crossbowmen nila, pero walang effect kasi may shield daw ang mga natives. Sinigawan daw sila ng captain na wag nang magpaputok, pero hindi daw sila nakinig. Nakita daw nila na walang harm yung mga baril nila, kaya sumigaw daw sila ng mas malakas at tumalon-talon para iwasan yung mga bala nila. Naghagis din daw sila ng arrow, javelins, spears, stones at putik. Sobrang gulo na ang nangyari.
Magellan died in that battle. Sabi ni Pigafetta, nalaman daw ng mga natives na yung bodies nila ay protected ng armors, kaya inatake nila ay ang leg. Tinamaan rin daw si Magellan ng poison arrow sa kanyang right leg. Sinunog din daw ng mga soldiers ni Magellan yung mga bahay para takutin yung mga tao. Pero, mas lalo lang daw silang nagalit. Si Magellan ang specifically targeted nila kasi siya ang Captain General. At tinamaan rin daw si Magellan ng lance sa face. Retaliated daw si Magellan at tinamaan din ng lance yung isa sa dibdib, pero hindi na niya maitaas ang sword kay sugatan na yung arm niya.
Nakita daw ng mga natives na nanghihina na si Magellan. Kaya dumami pa yung umatake sa kanya. Isang native daw na may malaking sword ang sumaksak kay Magellan sa left leg niya. Kaya bumagsak daw siya. Patuloy pa rin daw nilang inaatake si Magellan gamit ang mga lance, sword at kahit bare hands. Sabi ni Pigafetta, whilst the Indian were those overpowering him, several times he turned around toward us to see if we were all in safety. I thought his obstinate fight had no other object than to give an opportunity to the retreat of his men. So, ano na nga ang nangyari kay Magellan?
Sabi ni Pigafetta, yung king daw ng Cebu na bininyagan is gusto daw tumulong kay Magellan. Pero si Magellan ay tinanggihan niya ito kasi gusto niya na makita ng king kung paano sila lumaban. Nag-offer rin daw yung king ng Mactan ng mga regalo para sa katawan ni Magellan. Pero ayaw daw ibigay ng mga natives. Gusto rin daw nilang itago yung katawan ni Magellan bilang souvenir ng kanilang pagkapanalo.
Nag-elect daw ng mga tauhan ni Magellan kay Duarte Barbosa bilang new captain. Sabi din ni Pigafetta, yung slave daw ni Magellan na si Henry ay nagtraidor at sinabi sa king ng Cebu na umalis agad sila. Sinabi daw ng slave na kung susunod daw ang king sa advice niya, makukuha daw niya yung mga ships at goods ni Magellan. Nag-conspire daw yung dalawa at niloko yung mga tauhan ni Magellan. Inimbitahan daw ng king yung mga tauhan ni Magellan sa isang gathering kung saan ipapakita daw niya yung mga jewels na ipapadala niya sa King of Spain.
Hindi daw nakapunta si Pigafetta kasi inalagaan niya yung mga sugatan. Hindi nagtagal, may narinig silang sigawan at iyakan. Pinatay daw ng mga natives yung mga tauhan ni Magellan maliban sa interpreter at kay Juan Serrano na sugatan na. Sinigawan daw si Serrano sa ship na magbayad daw siya ng ransom para palayain siya. Pero hindi daw pumayag ang mga natives na bumaba siya sa shore. Umalis daw yung fleet at iniwan si Serrano. They left Cebu and continued their journey around the world. So ayan, tapos na ang kwento ng The First Voyage Around the World. Nakakalungkot, no? Pero huwag tayong malungkot masyado dahil may isa pang kwento na dapat nating pag-aralan. Ano kaya yun? Ito ay analysis of Pigafetta's Chronicle.
Alam niyo ba, yung Chronicle ni Pigafetta, isa daw yan sa pinakasikat na documents na ginagamit ng mga historian? Kasi nga, isa yan sa mga pinakaunang nagawa na stories about the Philippines, bago pa dumating yung mga Kastila. Imagine, wala pa tayong masyadong records noon. Tapos, biglang may foreigner na sumulat tungkol sa atin.
Kaya naman si Pigafetta ay tinitignan siya bilang isang credible source. Parang mapagkakatiwalaan daw yung mga sinulat niya.
Kasi nga, siya yung isa sa mga unang nakapagkwento tungkol sa atin nung wala pang masyadong nagdo-document. Bukod pa doon, dahil detailed yung pagkasulat ni Pigafetta, pinaniniwalaan na yung mga stories niya ay nagpapakita daw ng purest version ng Pilipinas noon. Parang walang halong bias. Kaya, importante daw yung gawa ni Pigafetta para sa pag-aaral ng Philippine history.
Pero teka, may twist. Sabi nga, kahit na importante si Pigafetta, huwag daw tayo basta-basta maniniwala sa mga sinabi niya. Kaya naman, kailangan nating basahin yung chronicle ng mas malalim. Parang kailangan daw natin intindihin yung context. Gets nyo? Kasi bilang isang estudyante ng history, dapat daw alamin natin na may mga biases pala ng mga author. Parang may mga personal opinion sila na nakakaapekto sa pagsulat nila. Dapat alamin natin yung identity ni Pigafetta, yung mga pinapanigan niya, at yung mga sitwasyon na kinalagyan niya habang sinusulat yung chronicle.
Imagine nyo, si Pigafetta, Italian yan, di ba? So, may perspective siya as a European. Tapos, sumama pa siya kay Magellan na under ng Spanish crown. So, baka may mga bagay siyang hindi nakita ng tama. Or baka may mga bagay siyang sinulat para i-please yung boss niya.
Bakit kaya?
Isa pala siyang chronicle commissioned by the King of Spain to accompany and document a voyage intended to expand the Spanish Empire.
So ayun na nga, si King of Spain pala ang nag-utos kay Pigafetta na sumama sa voyage at i-document ang lahat. Ang goal ng voyage na yun is to expand, palawakin ang Spanish Empire. Gets yun na? Parang gusto rin ng Spain na maghanap ng bagong territory para sakupin. He was also of noble descent who came from a rich family in Italy. Si Pigafetta rin pala ay galing sa pamilya na mayaman sa Italy.
These attributes influence his narrative, his selection of the details to be included in the text, his characterization of the people and of the species that he encountered, and his interpretation and retelling of the events. Ito yung pinaka-importanteng part, yung pagiging utusan ni Pigafetta at yung pagiging mayaman niya. Malaki ang impact sa kung paano niya sinulat yung chronicle niya. Affected yung
Narrative, kung paano niya kinwento yung mga pangyayari.
selection of details, kung anong mga detalye yung pinili niyang isama sa text.
Characterization of the people, kung paano niya dinescribe yung mga tao na nakakasalubong niya.
Characterization of the species, kung paano niya dinidescribe yung mga hayop at halaman na nakikita niya.
Interpretation and retelling of the events, kung paano niya gi-interpret at isinasalaysay muli yung mga pangyayari.
Gets nyo? Hindi lang basta nag-record si Pigafetta. May sarili siyang perspective, biases, and agenda. Kaya dapat tayo maging critical thinkers.
Kaya pala, ang detailed ng descriptions ni Pigafetta, isa pala siyang scholar ng cartography o paggawa ng mapa at geography, pag-aaral ng mundo. Nakapagbigay siya ng mga accurate details about sa mga lugar na napuntahan nila.
So, ayun na nga. Alam na natin na hindi lang siya basta turista na nagsulat ng diary. May mission siya, may background siya, at may biases siya. So, let's continue. In reading Pigafetta's description of the people, one has to keep in mind that he was coming from a 16th century European perspective.
Ito na nga, pag binabasa natin yung mga descriptions ni Pigafetta tungkol dito sa Pilipinas, dapat daw natin tandaan na galing siya sa Europe noong 16th century. Iba ang mundo niya sa mundo natin.
Hence, the reader might notice how Pigafetta, whether implicitly or explicitly, regarded the indigenous belief system and way of life as inferior to that of Christianity and of the European. Dahil nga European siya, mapapansin daw natin na tinitignan ni Pigafetta yung mga paniniwala at pamumuhay natin dito sa Pilipinas bilang mas mababa kumpara sa Christianity at sa pupumuhay ng mga European. Gets nyo? Parang feeling superior sila sa atin.
Mapapansin din daw natin na madalas niyang sabihin na hubad daw yung mga natives, which is tayo yun, or kaya naman fascinated siya sa mga exotic culture natin. Exotic means strange, kakaiba. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya sanay sa mga nakikita niya dito.
Pigafetta also noticeably emphasized the natives' amazement and illiteracy to the European artillery, merchandise, and other goods. Pansin din daw ni Pigafetta na namamangha yung mga natives sa mga European artillery, yung mga armas nila, merchandise, yung mga benta nila, at iba pang goods. Tapos parang sinasabi niya na illiterate tayo, meaning hindi tayo marunong magbasa at magsulat.
In the same way din, kung gaano niya kadalas banggitin na marami tayong spices tulad ng ginger at precious metals tulad ng gold. So, parang interesado sila sa mga resources natin.
His observation and assessment of the indigenous culture employed the European standards. Ito yung pinaka-key yung mga observation at assessments ni Pigafetta tungkol sa culture natin. Ginagamitan niya ng European standards. Ibig sabihin, kino-compare niya tayo sa kanila. Iba naman talaga tayo.
Example, yung pananamit natin, sabi niya, nakahubad daw tayo. Pero kasi sa European standards, dapat daw mas maraming damit. Tropical country tayo, mainit dito.
Hindi daw na-realize ni Pigafetta na yung pananamit natin bagay sa climate natin. Ganun din sa mga materials na ginagamit natin sa bahay, tulad ng palm at bamboo. Mas presko kasi yun siya.
And another thing, dapat daw natin maintindihan na yung observations ni Pigafetta ay galing sa context niya at sa panahon niya. Ibig sabihin, may reason siya kung bakit ganun siya mag-isip.
Example, sa Europe daw, dominated sila ng Holy Roman Empire. Ang goal ng empire na yan ay palaganapin ang Catholic Church sa buong mundo. So, sobrang religious nila noon.
Kaya naman, yung mga ibang belief system na hindi Christianity, tinitignan nila as blasphemous at barbaric or worse, demonic. Kaya ganun sila ka-judgmental sa mga paniniwala natin dito sa Pilipinas.
Bukod pa doon, yung economy sa Europe noong 16th century ay tinatawag na mercantilist. Sa system na to, sinusukat yung yaman ng isang kingdom based sa dami ng gold at silver nila. Kaya pala obsessed sila sa gold.
Kaya hindi nakakapagtaka na laging binabanggit ni Pigafetta na marami daw tayong gold dito sa Pilipinas. Sabi niya, lagi daw may suot ang leaders natin ng mga gold rings at golden daggers. Tapos marami din daw tayong gold mines.
Dahil nga mercantilist ang Europe, gusto ng Spain na maghanap ng mga bagong lugar kung saan sila makakakuha ng gold at yaman para maging number 1 sa Europe. Kaya pala interesado sila sa Pilipinas.
Yung mga obsessions ng mga Europeans sa spices, baka weird. Para sa atin kasi, napaka-ordinary lamang yun sa Pilipinas. Pero sa kanila, napaka-special yun.
Kung naintindihan daw natin yung context, malalaman natin na yung species ay rare or scarce sa Europe. Kaya naman, tinitignan sila as prestige goods, meaning luxurious and high status item. Parang branded bags ngayong panahon.
Yung panahon na yon, gusto ng Spain at Portugal na kontrolin ang Spice Islands kung saan tayo ay kasama. Kasi makadagdag daw yon sa wealth, power at influence nila. Kaya pala ang interesado nila sa atin.
Kaya dapat daw gamitin at intindihin natin yung mga context na to para mas maintindihan natin yung account ni Pigafetta. Qualified reading means mas malalim at mas critical na pagbabasa.
So ayun, natapos na natin i-analyze yung text about Pigafetta's Chronicle from start to finish. Inusisa natin yung background ni Pigafetta, yung biases niya, at yung panahon ng context niya.
Ngayon, hindi na tayo basta-basta magbabasa ng history. Alamin natin na dapat maging critical thinkers tayo. Dapat alamin natin yung background ng author, yung biases at yung context ng panahon niya.
Dahil dito, mas naintindihan natin ng mas malalim at mas accurate yung history natin, hindi lang tayo basta nag-memorize ng facts, nag-iisip din tayo.
Thank you for watching our video and hoping na may natutunan kayo sa aming VRP or Video Recorded Presentation. Maraming salamat!